Hello everybody, it's Chaz Large here again with another Fix It video, this time on a HP Pavilion Laptop, which we can see on the bench here. Now the complaint is that this takes a very long time to boot, and believe me, it does. I tested this very briefly yesterday when it came in to sort of see how long it would take, and basically I left it, made a cup of tea, came back, it was still booting. It's been on now for about 5 minutes, as you can probably see from the spinny wheel. It is still trying to boot. I tried to get it to go into automatic repair, which it did, but I had to go and do other things. I couldn't see what it was doing. Came back to it and it had in fact repaired and gone into safe mode, which is how I'd set it through the boot sequence. But thinking that might well fix it, but you know, just a quick fix, automatic repair. But no, it's still doing it. I suspect the hard drive, which it's still got, as opposed to the recommended change to a solid state drive, which I will probably do on this machine, is the cause of the problem. I've dealt with a few of these before. I've got one of these myself, in fact, and it works quite well. Replaced the hard drive with a solid state drive. Beautiful machine, works really well, boots up in seconds, oh, hang on, the spinny thing's disappeared. Are we going to get a log-on screen? Let's tilt that down there, and yes, hey, we've actually got it. It's only taken us about 15 minutes to get to this stage, which is great. So the next thing we need to do is to go into it, and I'm going to set it to run CHKDSK and then CHKDSK, so that it will fix the drive and then reboot it from there. So bear with me a second. Let's just see if we can get in. Now we should have a pin number, entry screen, which as you can see is taking a while. The camera seems to have lost focus, and right. Right, so there we are into the main screen. And we've still got a spinny logo down the bottom here, which you can just about see on the screen. If I turn the screen anymore, you'll get a lot of reflection from the light. So what I'd like to do in these circumstances to fix a problem with disk drive is to run the CHKDSK with the /F command. So on Windows 10, right click there, we get command prompt admin, which we say yes to. And then we can do CHKDSK /F, and it should say type of file system is NTSC, cannot lock current drive. CHKDSK cannot run because the volume is in use by another process. Would you like to schedule this? So the answer is yes, and enter. So now when we do that and we do start, shut down, restart, when that restarts, that will now run into CHKDSK and will check the NTFS-C drive file system and fix any errors. So let's just see how long it takes to get to there, and I will probably fast forward that bit. HP, spinny wheelie, and here we have it going into disk check, which is great. So it's now going to scan and repair the C drive. So this can take quite a long time, so I will probably stop the video at this point. Right, we're back with this HP Pavilion laptop, and you'll remember at the last break it was basically sat there with a little whirly thing going around checking the files on the C drive. Well, basically I left it running 5 hours and it still hadn't changed. In the end, I shut it down, rebooted it with a Windows Start disk and went into the C prompt and did a check disk that way, and it found lots and lots and lots of errors with the C drive, which it tried to fix, and it didn't make booting any better than that. Now I went back to the customer and said, right, you know, this is still running a very old version of Windows 10, probably just 1 or 2 up from Windows 8.1, and it really was not very good. So I said to the customer, what do you want to do with it? And they said, well, we've had it a while, it's never been right, ever since we put Windows 10 on it's never worked properly. It works for a bit and then it does all kinds of things. So basically we're going to buy a new computer, you can have it, do what you like with it, as long as we get the files off. So I backed up all the files onto my network drive and saved it. So then I thought what we'll do is we'll try and install a new version of Windows 10. So the one I tend to use more than anything else for actually getting computers going with Windows 10 is a USB drive with Windows 10 2004. Put this in, did a wipe the hard drive, did a reinstall fresh, so it cleared out everything on the hard drive and went for a new install. Got 2/3 of the way through that, and it said, sorry, we cannot install this version of Windows 10 on this hardware. So I thought, hardware, okay. So delving deeper into it, basically it's an AMD A3 processor with an NVIDIA graphics card. So I did a lot of searching on the internet and found that there's an awful lot of problems with later drivers in Windows 10 for the NVIDIA drivers with an AMD processor in these laptops. So I thought, right, okay, let's go back to prior to when all these problems seemed to start, and that was when they did an upgrade from 1803. So I downloaded Windows 10 1803, put that in and installed that, and now you'll be able to see that it will boot up quicker than it did before. It's still quite slow, even for a relatively, I mean this is 2012 model. Here we go. It still boots up fairly slowly, but having had experience with some of these HP laptops, if you replace the hard drive with a solid state drive, it boots up really quickly. And I use one of these, very similar model, although it's got an Intel processor, Core i3 processor, and that works really well for me as a laptop. I don't need anything more than that, and that's running Windows 10 20H2. So I thought, right, okay, so we've got 1803 installed on here. Let me just log in so you can see what we're doing here. Try the right password. That should do it. So we can get into Windows 10, and if we run WinVer from Windows Run menu, and we can see it's running 1803. Brilliant. Okay, no problem at all there, you might think. However, trying to upgrade this to anything else, and if we go to the setup settings rather, scroll down to update and security, and we can see it will come up in a second or two because it is connected to the Wi-Fi. you will see that it shows that there is an update to the 1909 update, and you guessed it, it won't install the 1909 update. I've tried it several times. I've cleared the cache, re-downloaded it, and it won't have it. It just will not run anything later than Windows 10 1803 version. I've gone onto the HP website and downloaded all the original drivers for this, even though they're signed for Windows 10. Yes, it will run. Obviously, it is running Windows 10, so I've got a choice here. I can either leave it running Windows 10 1803, and it will run quite happily. Antivirus installs, the antivirus updates install no problem, but feature update to Windows 10 1909 will not install. I even tried putting 2004 in and running the update through Windows Update Advisor. That wouldn't work either. So my best guess, and again corroborating this with the things I could find on the internet about this particular model of HP with an AMD processor and an NVIDIA graphics, is that it's really just not compatible with anything later than Windows 10 1803. So what I've decided to do is to move it over to a Linux machine. So what I've been looking for is the nearest I can find to Windows version of Linux, if you like. And the closest one I can find that seems to work quite well is Zorin Linux. And I've downloaded Zorin 15, but I've put it onto several older machines with different graphics and processors, and they all seem to work okay. And they all seem to be quite happy in running Zorin. So I thought, right, let's do a video on that. Let's upgrade this to Zorin and see what we can do. So the easiest way to do it is to download Zorin from the internet and burn it to a memory stick, which is exactly what I've done here. So whether this will actually show up through the HDMI monitor, I'm not sure, but anyway, with this laptop, when you power it on, if you press the escape key, you'll get the boot menu. So we'll press F9 for boot, and we'll boot from the USB. And so we've got try or install Zorin OS, so that just will run Zorin in its basic state from the USB. Try or install Zorin OS using safe graphics, and that's probably the best option if you're a bit unsure about what graphics that you've got in your computer, which may or may not work. Try or install Zorin OS with modern NVIDIA drivers. Again, you can try it, and this is all safe to try because it's all running from memory. None of it gets installed, no files get added to the hard drive, and you can check obviously the installation media for defects if you suspect that you might have a dodgy USB card. Alright, so basically I know that Zorin will work on an older version of an HP laptop. I'm going to install Zorin, so let's press that enter, and that should now pop up with the Zorin logo. There we go, Zorin logo. And what it does is it actually runs Zorin in memory to start with. So it sets it up in memory, yeah, without actually installing it. So it's basically going to be testing it as it would be out of the box. And then you get an option on screen to install it if you're happy. So it really is a safe test to do. There we are. That's how quickly Zorin from USB setup goes. So as I said, you've got this option now to try Zorin, so you can actually just run it and see what it looks like, or you can install it. So we're going to install it. Okay, so we select that, and then we've got various installation options coming up. So we are UK keyboard, and I found that the best option within the UK keyboard is the English UK extended with Win keys. Obviously if you've got a Mac laptop you're going to convert, then you can use Macintosh. If you've got various dead keys you can choose that. There's different options, but this one I've always found to be the best. Click continue, and then we get an option about how we want to set this up. Now it's always best to connect the device, the laptop, to the internet, but connect it wired. So if you've got an old laptop with an Ethernet cable, connect that to your router first and then select the options that you've got here. So it's basically giving you the option to download updates while it's installing Zorin, install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi, and configure a secure boot password. You don't have to do the secure boot password, but it does if you do if you need to install the third-party software. Okay, so I'm going to put in a quick little password in here. Okay, it's a good password, so I can click continue. Okay, so we've now got an option for installation. We can install it alongside Windows, so therefore it will create a multi-boot manager. So you can either boot into Windows. If you really need to keep Windows, then that's a good option. But you also have the option to boot into Zorin Linux. You can erase the disk and install the Zorin operating system completely. And with that, you can also encrypt and use LVM with the Zorin OS, and that will set up a logical volume management. So basically I'm happy to lose Windows on this. I've installed it, reinstalled it several times. We know that we can't get any further with this one with on Windows 10 than 1803, so therefore I'm happy to erase the disk and install Zorin operating system. So then we click install now. Okay, and it gives you one final warning here. If you continue, the changes listed below will be written to the disk, otherwise you'll be able to make further changes manually. So it's going to partition the hard drive as necessary. So I'm just going to leave that, there's nothing to change there, and click continue, and we'll see it go into operation. So one final check, where are you? And obviously we want we're actually in UK, so let's check. Select this. It's just quite easy, just select the time zone that you're in and then click continue. And away it goes. I think there's one more step, yep, and that's where we need to put in a username. And click continue. So that's basically your admin account for the computer to get into there. So, and I will leave that going. Right, well that has now completed the installation. Hopefully that's found all the necessary files needed for this hardware. Took a little bit longer than perhaps a Windows installation would do, but on this particular laptop, even doing a Windows installation, I still had to go and get drivers from the manufacturer's website to make the Wi-Fi adapter work, because the Windows just didn't identify the hardware built into this. And this may be the same problem with this one. It may not find the necessary for the Wi-Fi adapter, so we may have to put in another Wi-Fi adapter to get it to work on Wi-Fi before we can sort that out. Anyway, let's restart and see what happens. Please remove the installation medium and press enter, which we've done. Zorin seems to be starting up. Okay, so we'll click on Fred and we'll type in the password. And there we are at the desktop. You can't quite see down the bottom there in the taskbar. Tilt that down a little bit. We've got an icon there which is the network icon, and the volume and the power icon, and we can click on that area and it'll tell us how we're connected. It's detected obviously the Bluetooth adapter built in. So let's go over to the start menu, a bit like Windows. Let's just bring on the HDMI and go straight into there. On the keyboard obviously we've got the various keys, and one of the keys which comes with the HP laptop is this one, which allows you to switch screens. So if we press that, on the screen we've got different options. There we are. So it's for sharing the screen, so there we are. So we'll duplicate the screen. I think that was the one. Mirror, that's the one we want, mirror. So now we've got the same display on there, so we can switch over to HDMI only, so we can see the whole desktop. Okay, so it's now popped up with a little message: updated software has been issued. Do you want to install it? I would choose to use install now. Presumably it's going through the process. Yes, you can see there's a progress bar down here, and if we on the software updater, and if we put the mouse over it, it brings up the little pop-up message. You can actually click on that and it should bring it up to full screen. So it's installing various updates, which is good. And obviously it's doing this because on the when we started going, we plugged in the Ethernet connection. So that's allowing us to be connected to the internet. Haven't yet checked to see whether it's found the Wi-Fi adapter. Right, well, it's I had to step away for a bit, and it's gone into a screensaver, so let's log back in again. And it's now done the updates, and we want to restart, so let's do restart. And we should see it's starting up again here. And we still need to double check to make sure that it's going to work with the adapter, the Wi-Fi adapter. Obviously the whole process here is taking a fair time, so if you're planning on doing a quick upgrade to Zorin from an old PC, you've got to allow some time for this. This has taken best part of an hour and a half so far to get this far. And depending on the speed and operation of the computer and your internet and so on, and it's going to take a while, so don't think you can just do this in 5 minutes. It's not a 5-minute job. It's going to take you know, I would allow a morning or an afternoon or an evening to do this, but you know, just to give yourself time so you're not in any kind of a panic or anything like that. Let's go back and see if we're on there. We've got the screen popped up and we should have the login any moment now. There we are. So let's just go on to okay, we can't do the screen share until we have logged in. So obviously screen sharing doesn't occur until we can get the desktop up and running. That's there, so we know the screen share is working because it's already giving that secondary screen. So let's go for mirror, And there we are, so we're in mirror display, so we can go straight back to the desktop. We've still only got the Wi-Fi adapter, sort of the Ethernet adapter down here. So we're now in Zorin, pretty much in its natural state as it comes out of the box. Quite an uncluttered display, if you like. We've got the start menu with the Z icon. We've got a fairly standard start menu, accessories, games, graphics, Office, and so on. So if you go into Office, you've got LibreOffice, document viewer, calendar, and so on, and you can go back. So it's very much Windows-like. We go to System Tools. We can go to check various things like input method, so you can select a different keyboard if you want, power statistics, settings, software updater, and that's where you would go to install different things. Let's just go to settings to start with and bring up the settings window. There we are, and it's still not found the Wi-Fi adapter for this computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in a little spare USB Wi-Fi adapter, which I know works with pretty much any computer. So I'm going to plug that in and see if that automatically identifies that. And lo and behold, look at that, it's found it. So it's the built-in Wi-Fi adapter that it's not found, and then we can obviously connect it to my home Wi-Fi. Which is there, so bear with me a second while I try and remember that. So that should give us Wi-Fi access. It does. So it says at the top there, Wi-Fi connected. Let's go back to direct screen. So we can now unplug the Ethernet if need be, so that should now change the icon down here. There we go, so you can see it's now a fairly standard traditional Wi-Fi. So what we would have to do for this particular one is to go onto the internet and find a necessary driver for this HP Pavilion laptop. Having not installed this one particularly at the moment, I don't know whether it will give us that ability to find that. But the one thing that what I did like about this, you've got Firefox web browsers built in, but say for instance you want to install Chrome. Now in Windows, you go onto the web and you download Chrome. On here, if it's software that you want, come to the start menu and click software. This will bring up this screen, which will allow us to look at what software we've got installed, which is this icon at the top there, and you can see all the various software that you've got installed, and you can remove that if you want. You can select any updates that are necessary, but if you want to find and install a particular piece of software, for instance Chrome, if you click the search box and type Chrome, well, Chrome as it stands is the Google version of Chromium, which is also the same as the latest version of Microsoft Edge. So the Chromium Browser is what Chrome is built on, and that's what we want to install here. So we click on that and we just click install. Very, very Windows orientated. Pop in the password if necessary. And you'll see it will install the Chrome browser, or the Chromium browser, and Chromium will act in exactly the same way as Chrome does on Windows, and supports all the same add-ons, extensions, plugins, etc. Right, so there we are. We've installed Chromium. It took a little while to install it. Various updates, etc. had to be put in place as well. We can launch that. But again, the whole point of this exercise was to install it without having to type in lots of code in the command window of Linux to do it. So there we have Chromium installed, and we can go from there and search for whatever we like. Let's try let's go to my website. Let's see what that comes up with. There we are. There's my website, working perfectly happily in there. And of course I'm using a external USB Wi-Fi adapter to make this work. If we want to make it work with the internally built Wi-Fi adapter that comes with it, what we will need to do is follow some instructions that you find on the web, and I found a website which hopefully will allow me to do that, and I will go through that process in a moment or two, because it's a REALTEK driver that we need to install, and doesn't seem to be available just as a download or anything like that. Unfortunately, we do have to do command line programming. You start off by running this command up here on this line, and you work your way through entering the things. I will put a link to this where I found this on the website, because it may be something that will help you to install a driver. And we've got down to this point here, installation completed. The Wi-Fi isn't running yet because I need to install the drivers. So let's close that and let's do a reboot of the system, and hopefully that should allow us back into it. But we now need to enter a password. Enroll mock, continue, enroll the key, yes. This will be the password that we need to put in. Right, so we're back at the desktop. I've unplugged the network adapter and the icon has disappeared from down here. So let's now go to see if we can connect via Wi-Fi. It hasn't popped up any messages, but we'll go System Tools, or we'll just go Settings from that Start menu there. And yeah, look at that, Wi-Fi. It's actually found the Wi-Fi adapter. Let's connect to our local Wi-Fi. And lo and behold, we now have Wi-Fi connectivity. Although it seems to be quite weak, it's definitely picking up the signal. I mean, the Wi-Fi adapter is barely 10 feet away, so it should be quite strong. Now, I have found that it's actually picked up quite strong there. Anyway, that seems to have fixed it. Okay, I'll put a link to that GitHub item on the description of this video, so that you can, if you come across a similar sort of problem with a HP laptop and driver, and hopefully that will enable you to install the driver. But this one now seems to be working okay. And if we go back to the desktop here for a minute, we can see that we've got like I say, various things. If we go to internet, we should find Chrome is there. If you're not familiar with Linux, you can basically just click and drag any icon to the desktop, basically double click on the icon there, and we should have the Chromium web browser working. And you've got a full featured Office in LibreOffice in there, so you should be able to do everything you need to do with Linux that you could do on Windows before, and this will keep working on this hardware for a good couple of years. And you can always go to the software tool to update the software down the bottom here. So there's Evolution is an email program, but I'm sure that there's lots of other bits of software that you can use to do the same sort of thing as what you did in Windows. Anyway, there we are. So thanks very much for watching. Hope this has proved useful for you, and if you can use it to get an old laptop working with Linux, get a few more years out of it and give it to somebody who is in need of a laptop, particularly during lockdown when the youngsters are homeschooling, taking an old laptop, making it work for them. I'm sure they'll probably know more about Linux than you and I will, if you're an oldie like me. I'm a Windows hard and fast user from the very early days, before Windows even, but I've never really made the full transition to Linux. Anyway, done my little bit. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheerio.